let's talk about gifted myths. I'm Kaylee Collier. I am a teacher and an advocate for gifted education. And today I want to talk about 4 myths about gifted students that are actually pretty harmful. If you're new to the gifted education world, then you may have some misunderstandings about what it means to be identified as gifted. Many of our students who are identified as gifted think about the world in a very different way. It's the equivalent of being identified as someone with dyslexia or ADHD. It's a different way of thinking. It doesn't make a student smarter or better or more well-behaved. It just means that they're going to think differently. And so as teachers, we need to provide instruction that matches the way that they think. So let's talk about 6 types of giftedness. According to the Davidson Institute, which is a great resource that I'll link down below, there are 6 types of giftedness. There's the successful gifted student. These are the students that most people think of when they think of someone who's gifted. Successful gifted students will survive in any classroom. They often work ahead, they work very diligently at things. Things are turned in, things are neat, they're well behaved. They're also very rare in the gifted community. A second type of gifted student is a challenging gifted student. And in the last few years, these have become kind of my favorites. I love my challenging gifted students because they keep me on my toes. A challenging gifted student often questions authority. Why are we doing this assignment? Or they might critique something that you've done. They often remind me if I've misspelled a word or forgotten punctuation. They keep me on my toes because they force me as a teacher to remember why I'm having them do something. I can't just give them an assignment because I think it would be fun. It has to have a purpose, and I appreciate that. A third type are the underground or hidden gifted students. Typically, we see this with middle school age girls because they want to fit in with their peer group. So they hide their abilities or their uniqueness in order to better fit in with their peers. But I would argue that we're seeing this more in elementary school as well, and not just with girls. A lot of communities of our kids are starting to hide things that make them special and unique for the sake of fitting in. And I would wager to bet it has a lot to do with what's happened in the last couple of years, socially speaking, that students will do anything to feel normal and accepted. So these are the students that we really need to keep an eye on and encourage to be proud of the things that make them special and unique. A fourth type of gifted student is the twice exceptional gifted child. And often these children are overlooked. They come with a double diagnosis. So this is a child who's been diagnosed with severe ADHD, may have oppositional defiant disorder, but they also have a gifted brain. And so in the classroom, they'll have an IEP for one diagnosis, but there is no IEP for gifted students in terms of giftedness. So it's important as teachers that we are able to make sure that we are addressing the IEP and the giftedness within our twice exceptional students. Number 5 are dropouts. Dropouts are students typically in high school who feel like the system let them down, the school system. They were never identified. Maybe they're bored, they were never challenged, or they were identified as gifted and just feel like they don't need school. They can do it themselves. Either way, this is a group of students who end up dropping out of school early. They may go back to get their GED. They often don't graduate with their peers. Number 6 is autonomous, and these students are very rare. An autonomous gifted child or adult is someone who can pace themselves. They are very on point with everything. They have high goals, high expectations, and usually meet those goals on their own without any feedback from another adult or person. They are very self-driven. So it's rare to find that in a child. So with these 6 types of giftedness in mind, let's talk about some myths, 4 specifically, that are very harmful when we apply them to students in our classrooms. The first myth that I find to be very harmful is that gifted students don't need support. Often I've overheard teachers say, oh, they're gifted, they'll be fine. Oh, they can figure it out, they're in the gifted program. Maybe, but they do need support. Gifted students absolutely need support. They need support in the classroom for academics, but they also need support for social situations. We cannot pass off teaching to our gifted students because they'll figure it out. We also need to make sure that we are addressing specific standards and skills with our gifted students. They may master things quickly, but that doesn't mean that they've mastered it completely. They could still have gaps in their education. And so it's important that as teachers and parents, we're able to identify those gaps and help fill them for the gifted students and for all of our students. The second myth is that they won't be a behavior issue. And I can tell you from personal experience, that myth is absolutely false. I love all of my students, but often my gifted students can be quite a handful. In fact, when I first started teaching, our gifted day when my students would be pulled out was kind of my reprieve. It was my relaxed day because I had such a high number of gifted students. And they tend to be very involved and ask a lot of questions and just take a lot of energy from me as a teacher, which is great. I love the engagement. But sometimes I need to just slow down and I like a calmer pace. On top of that, gifted students can come with their own set of special behavior issues. For example, questioning. They may question you at the wrong time, and then it leads to their peers talking out of turn. They may become defiant because they don't want to do something, or they find it to be boring, or something that they've already accomplished. So thinking that just because you have a child who's qualified as gifted, they'll be easy is a big misunderstanding. We also need to address behaviors with gifted students. I have overheard teachers correcting gifted children and saying, you're gifted, you should know better. That's not necessarily true. Children are still children, and while they may be developmentally ahead in some areas, they may not be in others. They may have social issues that we need to work on. They may have peer relationships or family dynamics that we need to talk through. So addressing behaviors with gifted students can be done like you would do with any child, remembering that they are children. The third myth that I find to be very harmful is that gifted students can help our struggling students. Now, let me be very specific. By this, I mean we make the gifted children the teacher, and that's not fair. Yes, they can work with peers. Absolutely, hands down, should. However, it should not be their job to help remediate education for a child who may be struggling. It also should not be their job to check papers or to hand out papers just because they're the gifted child. That does a disservice to your gifted students, but also to your other students. It creates a dynamic of one is better than the other. And that's not a good dynamic for a classroom community. Everyone needs to feel like they are important. Everyone needs to feel like they are loved and that they are seen for whoever it is that they are. So defaulting to teacher support as a gifted child as your differentiation is not differentiation. And I highly suggest that we find something else for that gifted child to do. The fourth myth that can be very harmful is that gifted students can figure stuff out on their own. Again, all of these myths have come from things I've overheard in the classroom, and I've overheard teachers say, oh, you're in gifted, you can figure that out, read the directions, read them again. It doesn't matter how many times somebody reads directions if they don't understand what the directions say. Put yourself in the child's position. If you as an adult don't understand directions or what you're being told to do, does repeating it or rereading help you, or does it just frustrate you? Personally, it frustrates me. I get very annoyed. I need it in a different way. I don't need you to keep telling it to me in the same way. It's the same for our kids, especially gifted kids who often are pushed to the side because they are looked at as being easier and they can figure it out. And that's not fair. They need direct instruction. They need teacher support. They need small group time. All of those things are important for every child in the classroom, not just struggling children, not just kids with IEPs, not just gifted students. Every child in the classroom needs what their brain needs, and it's our job to figure that out. Teaching gifted brains is my passion. I love it because I was a gifted student. I remember what it was like to feel a little different, a little on the outside, a little odd. And I try to remind my students that that's okay. In fact, that's a good thing. I listened to a podcast a couple years ago, and I wish I could remember the gentleman's name that said this because it was brilliant. But he said, "Your difference is your destiny." The thing that makes you unique or weird or odd is the thing that is remarkable, is exciting, is new about you. And so I find a special connection with my gifted students because I see myself in them. And I know other teachers do this with other content areas. I taught with a teacher who loved helping his struggling math students because he struggled in math. Or teachers who live for a good guided reading session because that was their favorite thing to do when they were a kid. Art teachers who can remember the day that art sparked joy for them, and now they want that for everybody. So whatever it is that makes you special or unique, let me know. I would love to know in the comments below. And if you need help planning for your gifted students, don't hesitate to reach out. You can follow me on Instagram at Inspired to Enrich. Hop over to the blog. I've got lots of blog posts on planning for enrichment students, and I have another video. Click somewhere up here and you can watch that. It's a quick workshop on planning in under 30 minutes because enrichment should be easy, should not take forever. Or you can DM me on Instagram and we can chat together. Like and subscribe, and we'll chat later.